Welcome back. Yes, indeed. We're talking security now and the wider implications. We've got Professor Sulaiman joining us this morning. A.J. Sulaiman is the Director of Research and Production of Ambassadors of Peace and Social Welfare. He's an analyst and also a security consultant. Professor Ahmad Sulaiman is also a lecturer. Good morning and thank you for joining us today on Sunrise Daily, Prof. So, first and foremost, there's a new direction in terms of the leadership of the DSS and the NIA. Naturally, people will expect a new thrust and drive to security matters. They don't want to hear any such thing as business as usual. So they want to see something change. So from that perspective, I mean, for those who have that kind of expectation, what would your expectations be?
Morning, Chamberlain.
Yes, go ahead.
I think we expect a lot from DSS with the changes. If you look at the organization itself, how it started to where it is, and if you look at where DG have left it. DSS came about originally from 1976 after the assassination of General Murtala Muhammad. As at then, Nigeria had a lot of challenges in its security architecture. There was a porous gap. So after the assassination of Murtala Muhammad, Decree number 27 was enacted to set about the NSO, which now becomes the DSS, after the amendment by decree brought in by General Babangida a few decades after. Now, from that point to this point, if you look at DSS, it has, compared to all other organizations, it has developed very well. It has advanced and it has played a lot of roles. The only problem is that it is an organization that acts from background. So the public, they don't screen, they don't see the activities compared to police and other segments. So if you look at from that
Prof,
perspective, if you look
just
at
a minute, Prof. Having said that, are you able to assess their performance? Since you say, look, you hardly see what they do. So how are you able to put your expectations and your stake for performance?
I look at their development from regime. There were challenges during the First Republic, during the Shishinkafian era, where they were entirely critiqued as being just an arm of the executive. So, but if you look at the intervention of later military decrees, hello?
Go ahead, Prof.
If you look at intervention, they have advanced and adapted themselves to military era. And when the Third Republic now came about, if you look at the activities and the changes and the professional changes in the activities, you will see that they have, especially if you look at the regime of Vichy, they have developed what I would call sense of professionalism and reject their public relations with professionals, which now gives it a more humane appearance to the public. And from the background, if you compare it with all other organizations, they've been able to adapt themselves and modify to Nigerian security threats and challenges that is always changing, ever changing. So in the sense of adaptability to our security challenges, I would score them high. In the sense of especially how they've rejigged their public accountability by rejigging their internal relations through bringing in professionals like Dr. Peter Afunanya, who is heading the organization now, you can see that they have rendered themselves accountable to the public. If you see their interaction in most of their operation with the public, and they have withdrawn much more into the background as DSS is supposed to be. Now, if you also look at the challenging forces of nation building, that is the forces of separation, the IPOP challenges, the farmer herders challenges. These are challenges that hit at the root of national coexistence. In that perspective, if you have information as to achievements and their operations, you see that they've achieved a lot of success in that direction. So I know a lot of people will look at Nigerian security challenges from the point of view of violent crimes we have now. So this is where we expect the new director from his background, we expect the new DG to now move the DSS higher and advance it beyond where BC have left.
Well,
considering his background and the steps,
since you keep tabs, just a minute, Prof. Since you keep tabs in that sector, in terms of what's going on and how they're coordinating themselves, did you at any point in time think that there should be a change for this to happen?
Well, as for their operations, I didn't expect. But as far my knowledge with Nigerian governance, and when new leaders come, normally they come with a framework of coming up with new heads of rejigging their association to bring people they are comfortable with. Yes, you should expect that in Nigeria, not just in Tinubu regime, not just in Buhari regime. It has developed into a convention in Nigeria. But in terms of their operations, I am very comfortable with the way they are moving and adapting to our security challenges. Only that some of the challenges are beyond their mandate, because operational activities counter open conflict. Some of them are beyond their confines. So you cannot take up failures and gaps in military operations against insecurity or police and take it upon them. But from the background of acting beyond the screen and facing the challenges of our national coexistence, any reasonable observer will score them high. If you look at the challenges we have faced, the IPOP challenges, Nigeria at any time in our decades of growing, there have always been forces trying to tear us apart, not just in the north, not just in the west, not just in the east. It just depends on the convenience of the moment. So if you look at all those challenges from the background, DSS have been tackling most of these challenges from the background. I think I would score them high. And the present DG, if you look at his background, he has worked in violent states. He has worked in Kogi. He has worked in Niger Delta, I think Calabar, Enugu, and all that. So I think with this background, I expect him to use this background of experience in violent crimes and all that to national platform, so that we'll deal with our incessant violence and kidnapping especially in the north, in Katsina, Sokoto, Kaduna, which is now the cause of our national challenges. Another doctrinal, when you are talking about security, you are talking about three levels: operational level, tactical level, and doctrinal level. From the doctrinal level, Nigeria had serious problem of the doctrine, our approach to security. So as far back as about 20 years ago, I think getting to 20 years now, in the first daily post of 1st June 2004, I wrote Terrorism in Nigeria, Matters Arising, where I saw the situation, the need for us to overhaul the priority of our securities instead of focusing on regime security.
All right,
so
Prof.
these things have never been occurred, have never been brought to. Buhari tried to bring it to overhaul and refocus Nigerian security.
Professor Mohammed, Professor Suleiman, I want to be able to, we'll get into that shortly. But you talked about the DSS. I want us to be able to talk about the new NIA boss, Ambassador Mohammed, and of course with his level of experience heading foreign missions. He was head of the Nigerian mission in Libya. For those who don't know, he's done a lot of work: North Korea, Pakistan, Sudan, and even the State House here in Abuja. Years in the foreign service. What's he going to? Because based on that article that you wrote, you talked about how we can rejig the security, the security workings in the country. What do you think Ambassador Mohammed will be bringing to the table in that regard?
Between internal security, that is DSS, and his organization, because our security challenges are not just exclusive to our Nigerian dimension. It is related to counter-surveillance. It is related to foreign intelligence. It is related to outside foreign players, external players, international, not just in Africa. So we expect this new direction should lay a new platform where Nigerian security challenges should be beyond these internal factors. Yes, granted, we have economic, financial, social frustrations, but there are also external factors in influences upon our insecurity. We are living in a global world where every country is interested in what is happening everywhere in the world now, and every country try to act based on its own national interest, even if this national interest goes against the national interest of the area of its interest. And these are the things that have been worsening our Boko Haram fight. These are the things that have been worsening our banditry and insecurity. Don't forget the kind of gold mines we have in the areas of banditry now, Zamfara, KB, Aziz. So we believe there are a lot of external players, especially if you look at what is happening. Even in the recent protests, you can see foreign flags being raised. So we expect strength in NIA will also give a lot of, so it will also positively influence our success in internal security, which is the focus from the law of DSS, because DSS is brought up by the law to focus on internal security, counterintelligence, intelligence, and such order as may be given to it by the president. So we expect this refocusing, if they are able to work closely hand in hand with the NSA, we expect that there is going to be a lot of improvement. Because currently, as it is, it's like our NSA, our security operation is relying so much on force. And these things cannot be, it's not just force that brings an end to it. It never brings an everlasting peace. The security have two approaches, either by superior fire or the power of surveillance. So we believe this foreign and internal surveillance will bring up our sense of security.
In Nigeria, the recent stories, the emir of Gobir, I hope I got that right, who was killed in kidnappers then. And then, of course, all these other kidnappings and banditry, documentaries have been written about the situation of things, especially in the north when it comes to kidnapping. As these new men, and just to note, we just had the president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, talking about their colleague who is still in captivity after 8 months. With these new men on board, what do you think their priority areas should be? They have the bosses those agencies had in the past were criticized for not being very proactive. Saying, we always hear about things happening afterwards. We keep hearing, they got that criticism from a lot of Nigerians. And like you said, because their work, especially for DSS, their work is mostly in the background. Most people don't really see a lot of the things that happen. Should that change with the new men on board right now? Should they change their tactics? And what areas of focus should they be looking at with all these kidnap situations going on in the country?
And expand their intelligence. In the sense that, we have knowledge gap in Nigerian leadership, not just this regime, not just democracy brings all sorts of people into leadership. And so you have a lot of knowledge gap. If you have a very strong DSS that provides timely information and try to update the intelligence of the executive, especially the president, it will sensitize him to a lot of priorities. This is one. Secondly, I will also want him to also, like Bichi started, I will also want him to also improve on that, on listening. You know, in Bichi regime, professionals and consultants like us have always have an open door to influence policies, advise them, and I hope you will also take that, because these issues are beyond crime as it is. These issues are going to the root of our existence. Take the crimes you've said. Have you looked at the background of the Gobir Emir? Do you know he is an Hausa state? Do you know that there is something peculiar about Gobir compared to all other emirs around the region? Do you know that there are a lot of undertones of undercurrencies arising out of that incident beyond even the crime itself? Now, this is common to all our security challenges. You have a lot of undercurrency and challenges beyond things as they are. So you need a proactive agency that sees beyond the crime, that sees beyond the challenges, that look at the currencies and tendencies, so that we'll be nipping them in the before they develop into a substantive mayhem. Most of our crime and challenges emit signals. It's only that we miss the signals. If you look at, did my write-up in 2004, terrorism in Nigeria, I've given a focus of something to happen in 10 or 15 years. And those things happen across the areas of Plateau, Kaduna. I've highlighted in my write-up on Kano on terrorism. And also the issue of, around that year I wrote an article, 200 years of Fulani Jihad, and the tendencies of not having restlessness because of not giving attention to the youth. And now today we are facing that. About 6 months ago, in this studio, I advised that if we don't pay attention to the suffering and general suffering happening in Nigeria, it will lead to unrest. Just less than 1 year, we are today facing what I forecasted 6 months in this studio. So most of our security challenges emit signals that you can always read. So we need a proactive agency that will pick up these signals, pin the attention of executives and whoever is responsible to intervene, so that there will be timely intervention before it develops into a mayhem. So, and if you look at, yes.
Okay, so for what you've seen, just a minute, Professor Sulaiman. So let's take you back to that protest which you spoke about, the End Bad Governance protest. From what you saw, did they come across to you as though the intelligence agencies were able to put their finger in it? Because to some extent, many were of the opinion that they were a little bit surprised as to how is it that people were flying flags of other countries, who were those behind it. It appeared as though they dropped the ball. Was that your reading as well?
My reading is that they may be aware of these tendencies, but I think so much attention have not been paid to look at the background. You know, a lot of negative forces came into play in the protest. We have our own local challenges here, especially if you take Kano, for instance. We have local political challenges. You have a lot of other factors that have taken care. You know, even the protesters have been, in Kano, have been insisting that the violence and the burning in high courts and most of other buildings were brought about by hired folks that took over. So there are a lot of information going around about local factors and policies that came into play and hijacked. So if you look at those factors, I think a proactive agency would have foreseen all those factors and nipped them in the bud. But we are living in a situation where, even though DSS have tried so much where it is this point, but we need so much more to do to be able to detach our security agencies from political and governmental influences. This is, maybe they may know, maybe there have been some things that hindered proactive, active intervention. But
in other words,
that we
you're saying here now that it is political interference that is hampering or strengthening intelligence gathering in the country. Is that what you're saying?
Intelligence gathering is different from acting upon intelligence. It's one thing to know, it's another to be prepared for it. What I'm saying is that there are factors that even to an ordinary observer, things. Hello, are you with me?
We can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, go ahead.
If you look at Kano Emirates puzzle, we now have two emirs in Kano, and this, nobody would, no matter how the deniers from all the two sides, we know there are a lot of political intrigue cases and intrigues in this, focusing on 2027. And what do you call it, the protest too, you know, these political players have also had a lot of influence on how it played out, especially in Kano. So these are local forces. And then don't forget that we are now living in a frustrated time where people, northern Nigerians are becoming disenchanted with the system. This is also in itself another force. Because there are people who wish anything, let anything even happen, but they're given of their feathers with the system. This is another dimension. And these people will do whatever they can do to vent out their frustration against the system.
So tell us,
it is all these factors.
No, shed a little more light on that. I mean, people want to know, why are they fed up with the system? Because, I mean, we read somewhere that is it that they're not in power and then they're fed up with the system?
Chamberlain, I've said it time and again in this regime, in this studio. I've said it in NTA, I've said it in AIT, that our institutions, our leaders are not allowing our institutions to work. People are not seeing the value of democracy. People are suffering. Interventions are being stopped on the way. Agencies that have been created to bring relief to people are not functioning well. When they centralize this to states, I said it in this studio that these things are not reaching to the proper persons. So people don't get anything in hospital. They buy their medicines or go and get their grasses to drink.
No. What I'm asking is this: why do we always hear, for instance, now, if now we're here, just you also underscoring that northern Nigeria is fed up with the system. But last term, when the President Buhari was there, we didn't hear this as much. Then if it changes down to the south, we hear some in the south say, oh, southern Nigeria is fed up with the system. So are these politicians playing games with Nigerians? Why do these narratives always come up when governments seem to change?
The way I look at it, Chamberlain, it's a build-up. It's like, you know, in English, it's the last straw that breaks the back of the camel. So people have, it's a build-up. People have been affected so much. They kept on popping so much until Buhari's regime went out, and then this regime came in, and they were expecting. And then the build-up of these 8 years of frustration compared, added to what we are saying now, brought people to the peak of frustration. I'm telling you, this is not tribal. This is not regional. This is real. People are suffering, and this suffering is more focused in the north. It is in the north that you have economic frustration now. A lot of people cannot go to their farm. Some of them will have to pay taxes to banditries in Niger and Zamfara and Kebbi before they are allowed to go. In some areas of Borno State where Boko Haram still have influence. And even when they yield their fruits, they have to give out something. And then if you look at the north compared to the southern part of Nigeria was more stationed to receive this shock. But you are talking about crude survivors, people who survive from normal from normal farming, people who survive from day-to-day activities, all these hindrances have hip hop emphasized itself more in the north. So it is more the north that is at the receiving end of most of our failures, economic failures, financial failures, failures of agricultural intervention, and all these failures and insecurity. And therefore, it is from the north that you hear the loudest resistance. But I don't think these have anything to do with tribe or religion, because this is a government that receives the highest vote from the north. And
is it about this government now?
It's not about the government. That is what I'm trying to. Yes, it's about the government because the government fell.
But
it's not about the government because it's not that they hate the government. It's just that they hate the situation they find themselves in, suffering, in insecurity.
But you spoke about build up in the last 8 years.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, that it's been building up for the last 8 years. It means what?
It's bigger.
The last government didn't do as much to address those concerns.
Yes. And then,
so,
in the
those voices didn't come up at that time, did it?
Well, they have been coming up, but the things are not getting worse as it is. As at that time, traditional rulers and religions still play a lot of role in calming people down. But you are not talking of a situation where the average youth in northern states now is now becoming disenchanted with even the religious leaders.
I'm just looking at the time, so we're out of time. So I think maybe part of what many might have gotten from what you're saying now, if people are disenchanted with the system or the structure of governance, maybe it's just about time then. I mean, incidentally, the patriots are going about now trying to get narratives and opinions for the people in terms of what do we need to change structurally. So who knows? It might just be about time that we address the structure based on economic zones. Maybe if we approach it that way, regions will focus on the economics and play less of politics. Because this is what politics does. It just keep playing politics blindly and not getting development economically. So who knows? Could be right, could be wrong. But Prof, we're out of time. We'll have to thank you. It's a matter that we'll expand on subsequently. But we do thank you for your time this morning, Professor Ahmed Sulaiman.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.